Question 9 is, how do you show love to yourself? I'm reflecting on questions in my one journal. I do want to apologize. I am recording this in real time, and the last couple of days, the bump has been like, no, I don't want to do anything. I want to lay down, and I'm very grateful that I'm in a position to be able to take that break when my body needs it. And so we missed a couple of days just for me to recover and come back. But I want to do this question because, and this is in the personal section, which I think this is the first personal question. Oh, no. We also answered the releasing from head, heart, and hand. Yeah. So this is in the personal area of life. And you guys know that the 21 questions are broken down into 7 different areas of life. And so this question is all about loving yourself, because I think that became very trendy. I also feel like we're kind of moving away from that a little bit, which I think is really interesting, that the whole self-care, self-love movement is getting a little bit of a bad rep. Ooh, I just got winded. It's getting a little bit of a bad rep, I think maybe because of the way that it was, is commodified the word? Commercialized? Capitalized? Commodified? The word that I'm looking for is the way that the idea of self-love and self-care became something that was sold to us versus something that we inherently did. And so this question has obviously been within my reflection process for 2 decades now, but when I was pulling the journal together, it stayed in the journal because I do think that one of the questions that I'm often, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, because I do think that the question that we need to be able to answer in earnest, and I think that because self-love, self-care has become like a buzzworthy thing, profitable sort of thing, I think we get away from what it really means to sit down and answer that question, and how important it really actually is to have love for yourself, and how you can, and a lot of people do, you can make it through your whole adult life without self-love. And it's often that people don't realize that they lack self-love until they're experiencing a crisis like empty nest syndrome, or a failure in a relationship, or a dramatic career change, or something like that. And I have this question in here because, right, when I first started asking myself these questions, I was a teen mom, and the concept of self-love wasn't there. Like it wasn't framed like that, but I knew, oh no, that's gonna make me a little emotional. I knew that I had to figure out how to love myself in order to be able to love my son in any capacity. And I believe I had read in Iyanla Vanzant's book, In the Meantime, that you can only give something that you have. You can't give something that you don't have. So, and she went on in the book to describe more things, but there's this idea that you can't give love if you don't have it. And yes, I had the love of my parents and my siblings and family members pouring into me, but this idea of like, do I love myself, and do I have enough of that? And truly, in the beginning, when I first was answering this, it was for the purposes of making sure I had enough to give to my son. And as I've matured and evolved and learned and grew, it really has become something that is for me to sustain me, and it's not associated with my son and now my, new baby who's coming along. So I say all that to say it's a very important question, but I get how with the trend and with the buzziness of it, it can become trite in your response, or you can become trite in your response. But I encourage you to really think deeply about how you show love to yourself, because a lot of adults can't answer that question, yet they will swear up and down that they love that man, or they love their kids, or they love their parents, or they love that. And it's just like, if the axiom of you cannot give what you do not have is true, then is it love that you're giving to that man, to your kids, to those family members, or is it something else? And that is worth examining, especially as it relates to creating the life that you want, because so many of us do not have the life that we want, because the thing that we want and need, we are giving to other people, thinking that they're going to turn around and give it back to us. And that is not how it works. It doesn't work like that. So all that to say, my answer to the question, how do I show love to myself is, and what I wrote down is I budget and I manage my money, which I think is very interesting. Just reading my summary. Because my summary says, because I need to make sure those tools are available to me so that I can make choices. So a while back, right, like went on this whole big financial journey. I learned a lot in this financial journey, and most everything about finances is made up. Like money is made up, credit is made up, debt is made up, everything is made up. I was very disillusioned when I found that out, because I thought money was real. I thought there was hard and fast, true and beautiful things that I needed to know about money. Turns out it is completely made up. As you can imagine, when I found out it's this structure, this system that's completely made up, but every single human has bought into it all around the world. And so even though it's made up, there are these rules that you still need to follow, and there is this way that it works. And when you go outside the bounds of that, you're gonna be in trouble. And so when I had that epiphany, I also came to the realization that, like, if you don't manage this thing that is made up, that everyone in society has agreed on, if you don't manage this thing that's made up, your life is gonna suck. Like, right? Like, you're just, the things that you want in life, the things that you need in life, the things that are important, it's just, life is gonna be so much more difficult for you. It's gonna be so much harder for you. And as I was like mulling over that and journaling about that and trying to deal with my disillusionment, because once I was disillusioned, I was pissed. After that, I was angry for a very long time. And in me dealing with that, I finally came to a place of acceptance, you know, yada, yada, yada. The journey was rough. And I had this epiphany, or this thought of, you know, money management is one of the greatest acts of self-love. And even though the idea of money is made up, the management of this made up thing is really, for me, an act of self-love. And the reason for that is because my foundational baseline definition of money is that it is a tool. And the better I manage this tool, the better I am able to take care of myself, whether it is my mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial health, whether it is actually buying tangible things that I need, whether it is me being able to serve other people. It was like sometimes when I would want to serve someone else and I had no capacity, because I literally didn't have the tool that would give me that capacity. The other thing that I've realized is that money has been an incredible emotional tool for me. Like I had no idea how expensive feelings were, right? Like, feelings are expensive, okay? You think rent, you think groceries, you think something else is expensive. No, feelings are expensive, and there is a reason beyond the fact that most adults are not taught how to process and deal with feelings, but there is a reason why most of us do not deal with our feelings, and it's because we can't afford them. And I remember when I could like finally afford grief, like, and I could finally afford anger, and I could finally afford like self-righteousness and indignation. Like these are very expensive emotions. And what I mean by that is that there are situations where sometimes I would be in a situation and I would be angry, or I would be betrayed, or I would be hurt, or I would be being abused, being harmed. We'll say harmed, abuse is a little severe, but I was being harmed, but I couldn't afford to feel the betrayal. I could not, like, I'm being harmed, but I can't afford to feel the betrayal because I need this relationship, or I need, like, if we think about sometimes being at work, right? Like something happens at work and your boss just takes all of their stuff out on you, and you just have to take it because you have to go to work tomorrow, because you need to be able to pay for your mortgage or pay for whatever. So it's like this ability to be able to afford your anger, because let a boss try to flip out on me because they haven't managed their feelings. I can afford to be angry, which means I can afford to walk away from that boss. I can afford to walk away from this job. But that came from me realizing that if I wanted to truly and deeply love myself, I needed to put myself in a financial position to where no one could harm me. No one could abuse me. And when I say abuse and harm, I understand random things can happen, but even to that end, right? Like, I grew up in the hood, and so even being able to move into a neighborhood that is safer for me to walk up and down the streets, even when I was living in my luxury apartment and I had a concierge, it's like some of that stuff is like me buying my safety. And I did not have a dot connected to that and how that regulated my ability to love myself for a very long time. But once I connected, like, oh, the better you manage this money, the better quality food you're going to get. The better quality food you're going to get, the better your body is going to feel. The better your body is going to feel, the better you are going to feel. Ergo, this is how you're loving on yourself. And it's just any area of my life where I look, I'm like, if the money in that area is not managed, I am not able to properly love on myself in the way that I want to, whether the love is coming from a place of protection and I need to protect myself from something, or the love is coming from a place of like provision and providing something for myself, like being able to provide myself, like this bookshelf. Like I love this bookshelf, and I was in a position to be able to provide this bookshelf for myself. I love grass-fed meat, so I'm in a position to provide myself with grass-fed meat. And I know on the surface this doesn't seem like love, but if you made a list about how you love on your spouse, some of the things that people will list is like, oh, I cook for them, I clean for them, I support them, I encourage them, I yada, yada, yada. And it's just like, okay, if you take all of that down to its basic thing, you are offering this thing to them that without this resource potentially, or this tool, you might not be able to do it. And again, this is my answer this year, that like one of the ways that I show incredible deep love to myself is I don't let my finances get out of control. I manage my money very, very well, because I understand that this tool is going to dictate what I can and cannot do in my life. And I want to take the absolute best care of myself from a place of provision and a place of protection, which to me, when I'm looking at the definition of love, both protection and provision are in there. And so that is my answer to question 9. I didn't think it was going to circle back to money, but it did. And that's that. I'll see you all tomorrow. That is the plan.